Hello, everyone. Hello, Goasikan. Oh, what's going on here? Wait, give me a minute. Sorry. I'm just trying to I'm just trying to get myself all settled up here. Yeah, so how is everyone doing? I hope everyone is doing well today. Let me start sharing my screen so I can I apologize for the inconvenience. So yeah, basically, welcome to the Essential Guide to J-Pop Idols panel. Woo! If you can read the description of this panel in general, what I'm going to be talking about, like a lot of people like Love Live or Idol Master, idols, like more so like anime idols. I'm here to talk about the real deal. Like I'm here to talk about like real J-pop idols, their culture and everything about it. And I think make sure you click hold on, sorry. Present to the PowerPoint. Oh, okay, yeah. Let me see if I could do that. Oh, okay. So the issue with that is like if I click present, then I won't be able to see like myself on the live. So I'm gonna have to like be like switching back and forth and whatnot. Can you see this when this whole view? Sorry. Let me check the comments. Okay. All right. Ideally, I would like to see the comments and the screen itself, if in case anyone has questions in between and whatnot. But I think I'm just going to switch back and forth just to like check and whatnot. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, so this is the essential guide to J-pop idols. Before we begin, I'd like to simply introduce myself. Hello, my name is Julie. I am a former overseas idol. I'm currently trying to rebrand into something different, but I would dub myself or title myself as the Big Apple Idol because I've been performing Japanese pop music, J-pop music for almost over 8 years, which means I take the concept of Japanese pop idols and I try to emulate it more to a Western audience. And I've been performing like all over America. Well, mainly more predominantly in the tri-state area, I've been singing and dancing to J-pop music. But there are times where I have gone to like other states to perform at different cons, and I also have performed in Canada once, which was really, really cool. But yeah, anyway, what I'd like to offer today is talking about Japanese pop idols, defining what they are, diving into the structure of how they work, and if we do have time, we'll probably go over the history about them. We'll see. I'll try to fit in as much information as I can within the limited time that I have, because I can go on and on and on and on and on about it. Yeah. So first things first, defining an idol. What exactly is an idol? Well, it's a very broad term. A lot of people have different ways on how they interpret or define what an idol is. In Japan, it's very different in comparison to how they define what an idol is in contrast to Western culture and also even Korean pop culture. I'll get into that a little bit. But for starters, an idol, or what they call idoru, is a generic term defining rising entertainers. They could be performers, seiyu, which is like voice actors, models, etc., like grab your idols and whatnot. Though when it comes to idols in Japan, like more predominantly nowadays, idols in Japan are more so entertainers. They don't have to be like extremely popular or talented, because the market over there is very, very oversaturated with idols. Like literally anyone, even their own grandma, I'm not even kidding, literally anyone and their own grandma can be an idol, because you have like really popular like mainstream idols that like make a lot of money and stuff like that, and then you got your like local idols that are like in rural areas of Japan, and then you got your chica idols, which is like more underground scene, like they're not as popular and whatnot. So yeah, the contrast between a Japanese pop artist and a Japanese pop idol is that, like, think of an idol as like the egg. It's like an incubator to become an artist, because a lot of idols are always like in the works. They're not really the best in comparison to like Korean pop idols. J-pop idols they actually don't get much training at all. They get like a little bit of like, the rundown of like how their songs are and like, rehearsal time. But as far as like really solidifying like a polished, perfected look, they just have like a little bit of training, and then they're just basically sent out to the sharks, and they're just kind of left to fend for themselves. And I don't mean left to fend for themselves as in like it's like an extremely disorienting ordeal. More often than not, it's less about like perfection and more about being cute and having fun. And most start off as unrefined or unpolished when they first start off. So like if you actually like seen some of them like behind the scenes, they can come off a little bit cringe, but the whole point is mainly set on like how they grow, their story, their success and whatnot. And most J-pop idols, like a good chunk of them, have to maintain a certain polished, pure, quote unquote, pure image. Of course, there are idols that definitely deviate away from that, especially like nowadays, the way that more idols in Japan are coming up. They are expanding their concept and their term as far as like how they present themselves and their personality, but a lot of them are supposed to be, proper role models for other people. Yeah. So, aura of the idol. Now, because they aren't the best singers or dancers, and they do come off like a little bit cringe when they first start off, why do people support them? Why do people even care about them? I think it's more so the whole kawaii concept, where it's like kawaii in Japan is very different to how we see cute here in America. Over here in America, when you say that something is cute, it's more so talking about like the outer appearances, like, oh, this dog or this cat is like really cute. But over in Japan, kawaii is like a lot more of like a lifestyle, or just like, the way that they see cute is something that is more endearing. It's something that you protect. It's something that you hold close to your heart. Over here, cute is like, cute. You look cute in that dress. You look cute, with the Build-A-Bears or something like that, because I like Build-A-Bears. I don't know what other examples I can give off, but yeah. It's more focused on the personality, the heart of the idol, and their charm, seeing how much hard work and persistency they put into just trying overall, and not like being so like grade A perfect the whole entire time. And because people see this this imperfection, over in Japan, they call this like wabi-sabi, which means they see perfections in imperfections. And having that type of wabi-sabi approach when it comes to idols gives the viewer, the audience, a more sentimental feeling, because it reminds them of their youth. And it's also encouraging to the audience as well, because they're looking at an idol saying like, oh, well, she isn't the best, but the fact that she's trying so hard and, she's having fun makes me want to, support her, and makes me want to have fun with her, essentially. So, yeah. So when it comes to growth in general, growth is mainly the core value of a Japanese pop idol, at least more important, like my opinion. But there are Japanese pop idols that just kind of, they perform for like a year or so and then they disband and whatnot. But like a lot of them like struggle to get themselves out there, and they're, they try to work hard to make sure that they capture the audience in a certain way. And again, because of the current age of like how Japanese pop idols are formatted, you have a lot of competition. You have a lot of people with multiple different concepts and the way that they would go about it. And also like gathering up resources. It's again extremely competitive. They have a very capitalistic mindset when it comes to all of this. But the way that they are able to provide the audience like some sort of a connection or sentimentality to the audience is that you know, they would show the development of the idol's growth from when they first started, like all the way until they get better and whatnot. And then the J-pop idol fan that views them, you know, it kind of develops this parasocial relationship, obviously, as you could see, providing real life romantic feelings. That is also being currently challenged at the moment. Psychological reward like fan recognition, creating a sense of unity between the fans. Another stigma that I also want to point out is that like people tend to see a lot of J-pop idol fans as like, well, because they're predominantly men that are like looking at girls, they're being like, oh, these guys are creeps and stuff like that. That's not really necessarily the case. Most of them are respectful towards the idol, and they understand, you know, like she's just like doing this as a job. And again, I'll get more into the whole quote unquote romantic aspect and whatnot. So yeah, before I go into the next section, let me just see if there's any comments, questions, concerns, and whatnot. Not so far. Okay, let me just continue. Oops. Yeah. Okay. So diversity in idols. Oh, wait. Hold on. Wait a minute. What's going on? Oh, okay. That was sorry. Yeah. So not only is there Japanese pop idols, but there's also overseas idols too. I coined the term overseas idols. There used to be like other terms that people would call these particular types of idols, which are net idols or gaijin idols, or like which is translated to foreign idols. And basically what overseas idols do is that they do a similar thing that I do, where they take the concept of a Japanese pop idol and they try to emulate that and bring that to a Western audience. So if you are interested in checking out some examples of overseas idols, you know, some of them have their own original songs and their own original concepts, and they put like a lot of like heart and effort into what they're doing. And so it's a lot more like DIY, you know, they don't really have like an agency to like help them with these kinds of things. So, but yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. There's overseas idols. Now, what about anime idols? As of late, a lot more foreigners, a lot more Westerners in general have been discovering Japanese pop idols through anime, which is really great because it's a good starting point. But what a lot of people don't realize is that, you know, real idols, not only do they have their own magic to them as well, but the things that people portray in anime obviously are not the same as how it translates here in real life. So in order to actually really understand what you know, what actual J-pop idols go through, you'd have to understand like what happens behind the scenes and like their real struggle and whatnot. Wake Up Girls is an example of an anime that briefly touches upon this. If you know what Wake Up Girls is, they do talk a little bit more about the struggle. And that's not to say that any of these idol animes like don't talk about struggle and whatnot, but it's a lot more of like a peppy, cheery, like hyper positive like message and stuff like that, and like less like what actually happens and whatnot. You know, AKB 0048 is inspired by the group AKB48, and they also talk about their struggles, but they add like a more like sci-fi concept where it's like fighting and stuff like that. Idol Master is also a good one. If you want to like lean a little bit like away from like Love Live, because this is just my own personal thing, but when it comes to Love Live, I think like that's like the it doesn't describe idols as much than it does you know, in comparison. So another thing when it comes to seiyuu or voice actresses is that seiyuu are also another form of idols, but the thing is that seiyuu idols are also different to J-pop idols, because seiyus are mostly like they're mostly paid to play a character. Meanwhile, Japanese pop idols, like they are actually idols, like they and not to say that there aren't real idols or whatnot, but like seiyus are mainly focused on honing in the character, in comparison to like Japanese pop idols, where it's a lot more it's a lot more of their lifestyle, you know. Yeah, so here's some fun facts. If you didn't know that PriPara was also some of the what is that? Some of the idols from Iris, which is like an Avex company, they voice acted for a really popular idol anime called PriPara. And then also some Hello Project members have also voice acted. I don't know if you've ever heard of Morning Musume, but Morning Musume is like they're more popular group. They've also voice acted for, Kirarin Revolution, I believe. I only watched a few episodes of like both of these animes and stuff like that. But yeah, so this is what I wanted to go on beforehand when it comes to the difference between J-pop idols, K-pop idols, and Western pop idols. This chart is like kind of outdated, but essentially, like I said before, Japanese pop idols cater more to their own aura and their own cutesy concept, or not even necessarily cutesy concept, but just more so connecting with the fans. Korean pop idols have like a more, well, I'd say Korean and pop idols are a lot more distanced from their fans. I wouldn't say like distance in sense, but it's more like they're more placed on a pedestal. Japanese pop idols have more of like that girl next door kind of like feeling to them. Meanwhile, Korean pop idols and Western pop idols, it's like kind of like like they have like really worked hard to make sure they have like really chiseled out their polished, perfected image. So training, right? Japanese pop idol trainees, again, not many of them like really go through like proper training per se. They just they do it like either behind the scenes, like while they're like studying and whatnot, or like their agency gives them the resources to do them and whatnot. They're just offered, here's your song, here's a choreography, we're gonna help you through with like all of that, but we're not really going to like, again, we're not gonna chisel you out as far, like at least not as intense as K-pop idols. Like there are people behind the scenes that do help them with this stuff, but what is that? So yeah, like not many of like trainees are like really shown. Like, I mean, that's all they're hidden from the public. Same thing with Korean pop idols. It's like their trainee process is like also like somewhat hidden from the public. And usually Korean pop idols, like both Korean pop idols and J-pop idols, like start this stuff when they're like really, really young. And with K-pop idols, like you have to sign, I mean, like both of them have to sign a contract, but like K-pop idols, you have to like sign a contract and you have to do it for like, you have to be training for years and years before you are able to actually debut. Western pop idols, more so like in America, it's like if you have natural talent and you get picked up by like the music industry or something like that, if you get lucky by doing so, or if you're just like going on, like you have to kind of carve your own path, which is a lot more difficult. So being able to have like certain resources, like and being able to get your foot in the door essentially is a lot more difficult, I'd say. So with rehearsal, Japanese pop idols, they balance like their idol career and like school, and usually practice is like for a couple of hours each. Practice is usually what it says here, a few days each week for a couple of hours. K-pop idols, though, they attend performing art school. Majority of their focus is dedicating to be an idol. Like you have to eat, sleep, breathe being an idol. Like it's very rigid, it's super intense. And unfortunately, the reality when it does come to K-pop idols is that they really don't get much sleep. When it comes to like putting themselves out there, like you really have to have like a solid image. Now Western pop idols, I wouldn't say like per se training is like non-existent or something like that, because there are Western pop idols that do have like backgrounds when it comes to theater or like, you know, just any type of performing arts thing. But again, Western pop idols have a lot more freedom in carving their path and like figuring out like how they can get their foot in the door. So yeah. And they also like it's more of like their own like internal thing. Like a lot of like there's not many like American pop idol groups per se. There were American pop idol groups like in the past where it came to like NSYNC or Backstreet Boys, and whatnot, but that has died out ever since. So dating as far as Japanese pop idols, this is really tricky. Again, I'll go a little bit more into depth, but they have like a strict no dating policy. So they have a love ban, which is, you know, stupid. But again, to each their own. Like at first when I was like thinking, when I first heard of this, I'm like, why? That makes no sense. But then when you think of it in a business perspective, when it's like, well, you know, imagine if you were just like a high schooler, right? And you want to be a Japanese pop idol and you have school, and then you also have being an idol, and then you're also maintaining a romantic relationship. So two major factors when it comes to maintaining a romantic relationship is that your focus would be distracted elsewhere on like the romantic relationship, right? It's not really focused on your work. And then the second thing is like having like feelings, like it's very messy. So, and especially if you're young, I'm sure we're all like this, all like this when we're young. We're like figuring out ourselves and our identity. It complicates things. So that's a perspective that like I can understand when it comes to like having the dating ban and stuff like that. Yeah. Now Korean pop idols, it's also similar where it's like dating bans also apply, but for different reason. Like they must be focused like solely on being an idol. Like nothing else. Like just you have to strictly be an idol. And if you go out and do date, it's like, oh, it's a big scandal. I mean, like the same thing when it comes to J-pop idols and stuff like that. Now Western pop idols, let's take for example like Justin Bieber and stuff like that. You know, they're allowed to date, and it's kind of like seen as like promotion for news outlets. I think like either end of the spectrum is kind of strange to me. It's like, why are you getting involved in other people's personal life? That's just me. But you know, that's the difference between all three of them. Now J-pop idols, as far as like a member's like lifespan and whatnot, is that they have like rotation of like members. So if you've ever seen groups like, again, AKB48 or even Morning Musume, over time, over the years, they replace those members as they like go off. And when they do graduate, you know, they might go pursue different careers in life, either in the entertainment industry or in something else, or they just kind of go back to having like normal lives. They get married or they have kids and stuff like that. So, yeah, some of them also like leave due to like age and whatnot, and just like changing identity and whatnot. So like, it's not like members are like contractually obligated to stay like for like a strict amount of time in comparison to K-pop idols. So with K-pop idols, you have to sign 10, 20-year contract, determining like how long you are meant to stay with the company. And usually when like a group like a member like kind of falls off the wayside, the group overall just tends to disband. And some of them might have like members like coming and going and whatnot. But other than that, it's like it's more rigid as far as like the member lineup goes. Now, as far as Western pop idols, most idols, like I said, are soloists, but if they are in groups, they rarely replace members. And sometimes if one member leaves, the group disbands as well. Yeah. So performing, composition, music style. Again, I think I already like touched on these things, like the differences between the three of them as far as like how you're supposed to look as performing goes. Composition, most J-pop idols do not compose their own music. Usually it's sent off to a composer or producer to create. I mean, like this is applicable to also K-pop idols and Western pop idols, but a lot, like majority of Japanese pop idols, you know, because they start off like when they're like young teenagers and stuff. Not to say like they can make their own music. Of course they can like self-produce and stuff like that, but it's more common for Japanese pop idols to rely on like a composer or like a producer to create music for them. Korean pop idols, some of their singers like compose their own lyrics and their own melodies to their own music. But it's also similar with J-pop idols where they go off to like another producer and like composer to create the things. But Korean pop idols have like more of like creative input. They have like more of a creative like hand in their own stuff in comparison to J-pop idols. J-pop idols are just like, here's your work, here's your direction, do work, do thing. And then they're like, okay, I'll just do that. So yeah, Western pop idols, it's like, you know, a lot of them like are singer songwriters. Like for example, Mariah Carey, like she sings and then she also writes her own songs. And like majority of these singers, they write a lot of their songs. Now there's also of course like big name producers that like make their songs for them and whatnot. But you know, I think all three of these like apply to like all of them. It just depends on like the amount that is done, like when it comes to producers having a hand in their work and then also their like idols having a hand in their work. So yeah, again, this chart is kind of outdated. Yeah, so behind the scenes, like you're like an idol's training is an idol's training is more so their progression, like how they do it like in front of the audience and whatnot. So it's not like, okay, you have to be like good the minute that you debut. It's like, no, once you debut, you don't have to be the absolute best, but you need to like at least look good enough, like have like at least somewhat of like a cohesive quality standard when it comes to your stuff. And typically dancing vocal rehearsal on average 20 hours per week. This also ties into, like I said, other obligations that they have when it comes to like school or like family or whatever. And they balance it that way. The main thing that they have to focus on rehearsing is making sure they have enough energy and stamina to sing and dance properly. Cause like, you know, some K-pop idols, like they do like lip sync over their music. But if you've ever seen like those K-pop videos where it's like the, what is that? The lip sync is often like you can hear them like singing and stuff like that. Like I'd say like Korean pop idols, like their choreography is like a lot more heavy in comparison to J-pop idols. I mean, like J-pop idols is very like bouncy and energetic, but when you look at like Hello Project idols, Japanese pop idols, they have to learn to make sure they have like a solid core and have like enough cardio built so they can sing and dance like, you know, at least coherently at the same time. And again, K-pop idols do the same thing. But you know, again, some lip sync, most do not. Obviously, you can tell when it comes to J-pop idols and K-pop idols, there's a lot of like crossover there. So yeah. The more that they practice, perform, record vocals, film, model, or do any type of activity that pertains to their work, this could be used as building blocks to help them become more professional in the future. Having the opportunity to be exposed to these things firsthand, even if an idol is new, is all part of their training to get better. Career of the idol. Now, let me just check if there's any comments. Let's see. Is there a lot of stress on J-pop idols to keep a certain image? It depends on what type of idol that you are. So if you're an alternative idol, mostly like alternative, and I'll show videos in just a moment of like alternative idols and stuff like that. But let's say that you are a mainstream Japanese pop idol, right? If you are a mainstream Japanese pop idol, what is that? Like, for example, like AKB48, like you have to make sure that you are pure, quote unquote pure. And I mean like pure in the sense where it's like you have a positive, friendly image. Usually, and I'll go a little bit more in depth about this like later on, but usually like J-pop idols, they have more like meet and greets with fans consistently. And they have handshake events where, you know, the fans go up and they shake the idol's hand and like they talk to them briefly and stuff like that. So you have to make sure that you have a very positive, friendly disposition and anything that comes off like like you're a rule breaker, or that you're not adhering to like certain types of like standards, like yeah, like you'd get scolded behind the scenes. You get scolded behind the scenes by your company and whatnot. And then also press, like media, like in Japan and whatnot, like they're very like they try to like rile up like controversy, even though it's like not really like a big deal. Like they're always trying to find ways to be like, oh, this idol did this, she was walking home with a guy, what is that all about? They're it's dumb. But yeah, I'd say there is like a lot of stress when it comes to being a J-pop idol to keep a certain image. Now, in correlation to your next comment that you said, how hard is it to be an overseas idol? Can anyone do it? So I actually, like, I hope this is like not like too personal, but I actually experienced personality splits when I was like being like an overseas idol, because I was really like, I was so intent on like studying Japanese pop idols and like trying to emulate that into like my thing, where I kept thinking like, okay, I have to maintain this nice image like all the time. And that also conflicted with like my real life personality. Like Julie is like my stage name, Julianne is like my real name. So imagine mixing in your real life with your idol life and like trying to like have like a distinction between your personal and your private life. I mean, I personally like keeping my private life beforehand, not that much. Now I'm a little more vocal when it comes to like telling my story and whatnot, but I would keep my private life separate. Like I wouldn't talk about it that much out in the open, Now, as far as like being an overseas idol, I think like I think anyone has the chance to be an overseas idol. I wouldn't say that anyone can be like completely, I'd say, successful at doing it, because it's a DIY process. It's like, I think it's like just as difficult as like if you were your own underground musician, your own underground artist, right? Because you have to take into consideration your own promotion, your own content creation, your own image, your own like you're doing a lot of this stuff DIY, right? So if you're like working like a 9 to 5 job, and then you have like money like left over to save like for not only your own personal expenditures, but also your own expenditures when it comes to investing in your own idol, quote unquote, overseas idol career, you have to take into consideration like your budget, as far as like, okay, what would my outfits look like? I'd have to make sure that I look good as far as makeup goes, right? I'd have to rent a dance studio space if I'm recording in a vocal studio, or if I want to record in a vocal studio, I would have to either invest in that or get like, a microphone like this. You'd have to like set up your own DIY like studio, but like it's just like a lot of things that are DIY. So I think the complexity of being an overseas idol is dependent on what you're going for, because an overseas idol is a lot more lenient as far as like your goals, how you attain it, what you want to be, what you want to go out and do. I think the best way that you can really learn from that is not only learn from like other overseas idols, but also just like study like how other like J-pop idols do. Take little bits and pieces of like inspiration, and then try to see how that can like you can configure that into your own life, if that helps answer your question. But it's a gradual self-love, self-learning process. I know that I had to self-teach myself like a lot of things as far as like both singing and dancing, because I'm broke and I don't really have much money. So if you have the discipline, I'd say go for it. Like I said, I think anyone has the chance to be an idol. As far as like what you define as successful to you is, again, really entirely dependent on you. So if you want to like go out and perform live and like do those things, like you can get your own like portable PA system and you can like, sing and dance and do that. You could definitely do that. If you want to perform at conventions and you want to do that, and you can like build up like a repertoire doing that, you could definitely do that. But I'd always suggest start small. Start like small, understand your limitations, be self-aware, and then gradually build from there on out. And then seek out like some mentors or just other performers and just ask them questions and like learn from them. Of course, you can email me and you can ask me like any particular specific questions that you have in mind. When it comes to if you are ever interested in being your own self-made performer. Yeah. Yeah. Also, yeah, more information's on my website and stuff like that if you ever want to contact me. So yeah, let's see if I can like go back to let's see my live stream. Let me share my screen. Let's go to Google Slides. Okay. All right. Give me just a moment. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, interacting with fans. I briefly talked about this, but I'm going to expand here. Fans are typically called ota. I know you guys have heard of the term otaku, which is like it's a reference to a subculture of otaku. So fans are typically called ota, and ota are very devoted to idols. Like they're like, I would say almost like they kind of worship them in one. It's kind of like similar. How do you say? It's kind of similar as you would call like a stan, but the difference when it comes to being a stan and an ota is that like you know, if someone were to call their favorite idol, you know, it'd be like, oh, I stan this idol, or this idol is my bias, like in K-pop terms, right? Though in comparison in Japan, they don't really, I don't think they're really privy to use that type of terminology. They would call, like, they would say, like, this member is my oshi or oshimen. And when you say that this member is my oshimen, that means, like, to support or to push, you know? Because, again, because Japanese pop idols have that girl next door, like, lifestyle, they understand that, you know, an idol, you know, a Japanese pop idol is not solely just dedicated to being an idol in Japan. Like they have a separate life of their own as well, you know? So I personally prefer the term oshi to like support an idol rather, or to support or push an idol rather than calling someone like a stan, or is like, oh yeah, I stan this idol and whatnot. Because I'm sure that stan means stalker fan, right? Which is kind of weird. Why would you want, be respectful of your idols? Bad, you know? But yeah, the way that they would cheer during performances is very unique. They have like a synchronized form of like chants and like dances. I don't know if you've ever heard of Annie Party, but my friends at Annie Party, they they have events that cater to just that specific thing, where you have the glow sticks and you dance in specific formation and stuff like that along with the song. And not only that, but you have specific fan chants with the song. K-pop idols, they have that as well, though I think that Korean pop idols have like were inspired by Japanese idols and like kind of took it on, but their fan chants are different in comparison to like Japanese pop idol fan chants. So if you ever watch any J-pop lives or K-pop lives, it'd be fun if you like pay attention to their fan chants and like how they differ from the two. It's kind of interesting. What is that? After the performances or during other events, idols take on the opportunity to hold handshake events. You know, fans would usually have a short amount of time, usually lasting seconds, to talk to an idol. And sometimes they hold sessions where you can take mini Polaroid pictures or checky with the idols as well. I know that K-pop idols also like have fan greets as well, but it's a lot more exclusive. It's a lot more exclusive, where it's like, oh, you have to, like, I feel like it's like a lot more money being spent, where it's like, oh, you have to be part of like this specific like A+ Korean pop idol club. Like you have to join like our specific fan club in order to, like, there's like different tiers and stuff like that. So I don't know, just the way that they structure is interesting. So media personalities. There are plenty other ways that idols interact with the public besides performing, and this could obviously be through interviews, radio shows, variety shows, game shows, commercials, and social media. And this also gives more fans insight on how certain idols behave in general and providing more perspective to their personalities and whatnot. If you've ever watched like some of these variety shows or like these game shows, the way that the idol's personality comes out is like really funny, in the way that they react to certain things. And again, there's a lot of crossover when it comes to K-pop idols. It's like that as well. So now, I was gonna show this video, but this video is not up. What this video was, this is talking about Senbatsu. Senbatsu is a particular event that happens with like 48 groups like AKB48, SKE48, Nokisaka 46, and whatnot, where because there's so many members in AKB48, like over 100 plus of them, they have to compete to find their way to the top so they can have like be center role and like be the face of like their next single and whatnot. And fans would buy CDs, like fans would probably like obsessively like buy CDs, some of them, I'm not saying all of them, but fans would like buy CDs, get the handshake ticket, and they would be like, I'm voting for this one, I'm voting for this one, I'm voting for this one, and they would put in their votes that way to make sure that, you know, their favorite idol gets the support that they want and whatnot. There's also another form of senbatsu, which was in this video. I can't show it because it's not available, obviously. But there's another form of senbatsu, which is called Janken Taikai. And basically what they do is that, like, there's two idols, right? And they basically play an intense match of rock, paper, scissors. And this stuff is like, this stuff gets really intense. It's like, Janken Bon! And then, you know, they win it in that way, and those trainees get selected to also be put in certain opportunities. Again, very competitive, very intense. As crazy as these all sound, these emotional events as the idols have to face in order to accomplish their goals, so many possibilities come out of them, and the chance of a less popular member gaining even the smallest victory is like a window to a miracle. Now that's AKB48. These are not like all idols, like not all idols are like this. Personally, that's like one of the reasons that's why I don't really care too much about AKB48, like other types of idols, but just wanted to put that into perspective. Yeah. So when it comes to idols, there are many different idols with different types of concepts. You know, of course, going to the main like Morning Musume or like AKB48 idols and stuff like that is like fine if you really want to get into idols, but there's so much more variety out there. And I'd say that Chica idols, more so underground idols, deserve just as much recognition and respect, because they're doing their stuff with like their small agencies, their small companies and stuff like that, and trying to gather whatever resources that they have to like put out content and stuff like that. So if you are like really curious and you really want to dig, here are some recommendations if you'd like to check that out. I'd also, again, if you can email me, I can also link you. We can like talk back and forth, and I'll like show you all my playlists and stuff like that when it comes to idols and what have you. Saying goodbye. When a member leaves a group or they disband, a graduation concert is held to the fans, and the members have the chance to part ways, and the idol would say her last messages before she leaves. I know there are times where I've cried like watching these things because it's like so sentimental, like how they connect with each other. But yeah. Finally, I think after this, I would like to show like actual examples of J-pop idols and whatnot. There's a dark side of J-pop idols. You know, where a lot of this is water under the bridge, by the way. Like, they're all on good terms now. But, you know, back then, if you were caught smoking cigarettes or if you were dating someone, that would be like a huge no-no. They'd be like, oh no, absolutely not. Currently in Japan, they're kind of some fans are changing their mindset and their concept on like these things, because it's just like, they're just like, can we just like let the idols like live? Like, can they just breathe? You know, can they just be humans and stuff like that? I mean, like, the cigarettes, you shouldn't be doing that when you're young. But, you know, as far as dating goes, you know, it's kind of exploitative, you know, the way that the press would like harp on them and not just like leave them alone and whatnot. So yeah. And again, both of these idols, it's not like they're like shamed for life. Like, that's like that's terrible. That's what the media wants you to think. They're still having like good lives. I wouldn't say good or bad. They're just living their life. They're just living their life the best that they possibly could, just like any other person. Yeah. What is that? This is a quote that I found. I thought that was interesting. It's already been said that female idols are definitely prohibited from dating, as this will shatter their image. An internet survey conducted among 202 male college students in Japan, around 75% of them felt that the ban was unnecessary. So yeah, basically majority of like the fans are just like, we don't care, we just like unconditionally love them anyway. But then like a small handful of them are just like, they're very like possessive of the idol and be like, no, the idol's supposed to be for everyone. She's not allowed to date, da da da. It's still a controversial like topic to talk about and whatnot. Cause it's like, I can see both sides. I can understand like the nuance between all of it, but a lot of like Westerners will like look at that and they would have like culture shock. They'll be like, what? Love bands, like dating bands? That's a thing, So yeah. Anyway, so that is as far as I go when it comes to talking about the whole structure behind a Japanese pop idol. I like to end this live stream with sharing some examples of J-pop idols and whatnot. I have a YouTube playlist showcasing all of that, because I could go on talking about the history of idols, but I don't think we would have enough time. So let's see. Without further ado, let me share my screen again. Okay, so I want to go from beginning to end when it comes to this. Now, starting off, I'd really like to emphasize on like idols from like the 1970s, 1980s. This is more so like 1980s and whatnot. Not I. This is like a cultural thing where it's like they would call this the golden era or the Showa era idol. Showa idol era in Japan, where I think like Japanese pop idols during the 80s like hit their like absolute peak. Like that's when they like solidified what a J-pop idol is and whatnot. And I like their voice. Like I like more of their vocals in the 80s and whatnot, because again, idols currently nowadays, they don't have to be the best singer or dancer. But as far as idols in the 1980s go, they really put emphasis on the vocalist behind it. So oh yeah, let me know if you can hear any of this. Can you guys like hear let me see. No, you can't hear it. Let me see. Give me a moment. Sorry about that. Yeah. I'm going to play the video. Let me know if you can hear this. Oh, okay. You can't hear it. Okay. I think if that's the case, I'm going to actually like link the playlist. I'm going to link the playlist in the chat, and you can take your time listening to some of these examples. Let me see if there's a way for me to like put this. I'm going to put it in the chat here. But yeah, you can like listen to these examples. It sucks because it's like I really want to like show you guys like some bits and pieces and stuff like that. But to kind of let me see, show you my screen and whatnot. Give me a minute. But yeah, this whole playlist, it starts off with like 2 videos of like 80s J-pop idols, and then it goes into the more popular idols like Morning Musume and AKB48, which is more of like their cutesy like mainstream concept. And then you've got boy idols, because why not check out boy idols? And boy idols, like their choreography is a lot more like what do you say? It's I'd say it's a lot more like cooler in comparison to like the cute concept. And then I put like 2 alternative idols, if you like rock and whatnot. And then finally, the at the end of the playlist, I also put just more recent examples, of like idols, um, that like that are more apparent to current day, you know. The last one, this is actually like a self-produced, self-made idol group, and I'm starting to see that more J-pop idols are trying to go that route, where they're like, it's more self-produced, self-made by the idols themselves. And I thought that was really cool, how they were doing that. But yeah, other than that, let's see. Let me just scroll all the way down here. Overall, thank you very much for joining my live stream or joining my panel here. I'd also like to thank GoaCCon for having me here. It was such a pleasure to sit here and like talk about J-pop idols and whatnot. If you had any further questions, comments, concerns, you can find me online on my website at julie.live if you'd like to learn more about me. Or if you have any further questions as far as the panel goes, you can ask me here before we go, or you can email it to me at contact@julie.live, and I would love to have a discussion and just share my experiences and share my knowledge with you guys, because I'm very passionate about this topic in general. So yeah. Woo! Let me see if there's anything else to add. No, there's nothing really else to add. Other than that, I hope everyone has a good convention, and I hope you guys enjoy. Also, as a local Staten Islander, I really hope this convention like grows more and like has more support, because you know, support your local cons. That's very, very, very important. Yeah, that's all.